Hello there, and welcome back to the Sleepy Science channel. Tonight we're going inward deep into that 3-pound electrical storm behind your eyes. Before we begin, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy unraveling the chaos of your own consciousness with me. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what you're currently caffeinated on. Now dim the lights, maybe power on a fan for that cozy white noise, and let's slide gently into tonight's exploration. It's early morning, and yes, you are a barely functional human being. Your alarm has betrayed you, your willpower is on life support, and your brain feels like wet cardboard. You stumble into the kitchen, open a cabinet with the dead eyes of a medieval peasant, and there it is, the sacred bean. The elixir. The only reason you haven't quit society entirely. Caffeine, the little molecule that single-handedly prevents civilization from collapsing every weekday at 7 a.m. But what even is this stuff you worship every morning? Caffeine is tiny, simple, harmless, looking like the biological equivalent of a toddler with a laser pointer. Its official name, 1,3,7-trimethylxanthine, sounds like something you'd whisper into a demon circle, but really it's nature's oldest trick for staying awake. Plants invented caffeine millions of years ago, not to help you finish your deadlines, but to wage chemical warfare. Because here's the fun part, caffeine is a pesticide. A literal plant weapon. When insects nibble on caffeine, their tiny nervous systems freak out, short-circuit, and collapse. Nature designed caffeine to stop bugs in their tracks. And humans saw this, shrugged, and said, cool. Let's drink gallons of it. Against all evolutionary logic, the same chemical that knocks insects unconscious turns us into alert, bright-eyed optimists who suddenly believe we can answer emails. The story of caffeine is older and more global than most empires. Somewhere in ancient Ethiopia, coffee berries were growing wild, minding their business, until according to legend a goat herder named Kaldi noticed his animals bouncing around like they'd discovered electricity. Whether Kaldi existed or not, humans quickly understood the message. This plant makes you feel less like death. A revelation worthy of historical applause. From Ethiopia, coffee marched north into Arabia like a holy pilgrimage in liquid form. By the 15th century, Arab scholars and Sufi mystics were brewing it during long nights of prayer, poetry, and contemplating why God made mornings. They weren't just enjoying a drink, they were unlocking a new kind of wakefulness. To them, caffeine wasn't a beverage, it was a tool for staying present, alert, spiritually focused. The Arabic word kahwa, possibly meaning wine, tells you everything about its importance. And so caffeine spread across continents, across cultures, across every tired brain trying not to fall asleep at a meeting. Today, coffee shops line city streets like temples to the same ancient molecule. Millions of people clasp warm cups each morning, waiting for that familiar shift, the fog lifting, thoughts sharpening, consciousness rebooting. So take a deep breath. Feel your thoughts slow. Tonight we explore not just a chemical, but a mirror of humanity's longing for clarity, energy, and the quiet rebellion against fatigue. To understand caffeine is to understand a piece of ourselves, a reminder that even the smallest molecule can shape the rhythm of entire civilizations. By the 17th century, coffee was on quite the whirlwind tour, hopping its way through Europe thanks to Ottoman traders. Venetian merchants were the VIPs of this caffeine craze, bringing this delicious brew to Italy. Soon enough, it didn't stop there. Coffee was spreading like a fashionable trend to England, France, and the Netherlands. With each new spot it landed, there was an unmistakable spark. Coffee houses began popping up everywhere, all dedicated to the sole purpose of consuming that delightful cup. These coffee houses weren't just about sipping beverages. Oh no. They became the hot spots for cultural transformation. Picture this, writers, philosophers, merchants, and artists clustered around tables, fueled by caffeine like the world's most engaging electric current. This magical potion sharpened their wits, keeping them bright-eyed and busy far longer than nature intended. It was the age of enlightenment's caffeine-fueled social scene, where everyone could express their genius with a side of espresso. In England, these places earned a cheeky nickname, penny universities. For just a small fee, say the cost of a cup, everyone could gather and eavesdrop on the most brilliant minds of the time. Gone were the lonely hours of scholars trying to wrestle with profound thoughts alone. Now it was all about the collective process. Hundreds of caffeinated brains mingling, exchanging ideas, and bouncing thoughts off one another created an electrifying atmosphere of intellectual feasting. This communal thinking had epic consequences. We saw the rise of the scientific revolution, the birth of modern science, and of course, the age of enlightenment. Great thinkers and creators were relying on their cups of joe to survive those late-night epiphanies. Isaac Newton, Voltaire, Beethoven, you name it. While they sipped their concoctions, they had no clue that the secret behind their brilliance was a flavor-packed substance called caffeine. Meanwhile, halfway across the globe, tea was having its moment too. The Chinese had been sipping tea for thousands of years, but it truly blossomed around the 8th century, transitioning into a rich cultural phenomenon. Tea ceremonies bubbled up, blending meditative practices with the delightful process of drinking tea, centering around that splendid caffeinated leaf. In the Americas, indigenous populations were not left behind, showcasing yerba mate and cacao in both rituals and everyday life. Talk about diverse caffeinated flair. Fast forward to the 20th century, caffeine had strut its stuff across continents, becoming a global sensation. Coffee and tea became staples, while Coca-Cola popped onto the scene in 1886, introducing caffeine in a portable bottle. Oh, and let's not forget the energy drinks that came crashing onto the market later, delivering hefty doses of caffeine on the go. Today, caffeine holds the title of the most widely consumed psychoactive substance on the planet, with billions of folks raising their cups in homage, and the global market worth tens of billions of dollars. But get this, despite the caffeine love fest, for the majority of human history, we had no earthly clue about its workings. We felt its benefits in our bones and built up entire industries around it. But how it worked was still a great mystery. It wasn't until 1819 that a German chemist, Friedrich Ferdinand Runge, isolated caffeine, pulling it from coffee beans and giving it a fancy name. Yet even then, the light bulb didn't fully switch on about caffeine's powers until 150 more years passed. When scientists finally unraveled the riddle, they found a stunning revelation. Caffeine doesn't actually create energy. What it does is much cheekier. It blocks our brain's perception of fatigue, tricking us into feeling more alert. It's like caffeine is a clever magician, pulling the wool over our eyes while we juggle ideas and thoughts at caffeinated speed. Suddenly, the mystery of our beloved brew became a mind-bending revelation that revolutionized our understanding of how we function. To grasp the wonders of caffeine, you first need to wrap your head around the concept of fatigue. And before that, let's give a nod to our unsung hero, adenosine. Picture your brain as the power-hungry diva it is. Despite being only 2% of your body weight, it guzzles nearly 20% of your energy while you're just sitting there. Every thought, memory, and sensation requires energy, served to you by our good buddy ATP or adenosine triphosphate. It's like biological money, and your brain is always in the red. As you think and function, your body breaks down ATP to fuel its actions. The catch: this whole process is efficient, but not endlessly sustainable. Enter adenosine, the byproduct of ATP breakdown, which starts accumulating like laundry after a binge-watching session. Each second you're awake shouts, "Hey, you. Yeah, you. It's time for some shut-eye." With high levels of adenosine swirling around, your brain begins its dramatic monologue on just how tired it feels. That's the power of what sleep researchers like to call sleep pressure. Now, folks, let's talk about receptors, specifically the adenosine receptors your brain is sporting. A, B1, B2, and even the elusive A3 receptors all join this tired party. As adenosine joins forces with these receptors, they're sending urgent signals that it's time to hit the hay. The longer you stay awake battling this pressure, the more intense it becomes. After 24 hours, staying conscious is like trying to hold onto a greased pig at the county fair. It's a slippery struggle, and you're losing. Cue the entrance of caffeine, the unlikely hero in our tale. Caffeine is like the bouncer at an exclusive club, kicking adenosine right off its receptors. Unlike a superhero, it doesn't destroy adenosine or hasten its exit. It simply distracts your body from its weary plight. Imagine adenosine as a messenger dashing off to your brain shouting, "You're tired, go to bed," only to find caffeine swooping in as the postal worker saying, "Sorry, no deliveries today." But hold on, caffeine isn't giving you the energy boost you think it is. If you were to compare the energy output of someone who just chugged coffee with that of a decaf drinker, you'd find them using about the same amount of energy. It doesn't turbocharge ATP production or pump up your muscles. Instead, caffeine masterfully tricks your brain into thinking it's ready to party when really, your tired self is just hibernating under a blanket of exhaustion. Now, here's the fascinating part. Once you sip that delightful brew, caffeine hits your bloodstream in as little as 15 minutes depending on your individual magic, metabolism and what you ate. It races toward your brain, claiming its throne atop those adenosine receptors. When caffeine roars into action, your body stops receiving the tiredness alerts. Suddenly, the clouds of fatigue lift, and you're basking in that glorious state of alertness and energizing ruse that feels like invincibility. So, the next time you sip that cup of joe, know that you're not just waking up. You're hosting a lively party where adenosine is barred at the door. You're no longer shackled by sleep pressure, and while the truth about your tiredness lurks in the background, your caffeine kick keeps the excitement rolling. The world is your oyster, at least until the caffeine wears off, and then, well, adenosine's gonna have a word with you. Caffeine can be a tricky little trickster. It's like your super efficient, over-caffeinated friend who insists that you tackle that massive project when all your brain really wants is a nap. By silencing your body's fatigue signals, caffeine makes you feel sprightly when in reality, your brain is still slumped over like a sad puppy. It's a sneaky little override of your natural urge to rest, and while it can lead to some seriously late nights, it's best to tread carefully. Think about it. There are times when blocking those pesky signals is downright useful. You know the moments when deadlines loom like storm clouds, or you're navigating a late-night road trip. In such scenarios, caffeine shines like a beacon of hope. It helps you maintain that much-needed wakefulness without guilt, right when you need it most. It's like filling up your coffee cup instead of hitting the snooze button one more time. But hold on, this act of defiance comes at a cost. You're not gaining a thing, really. Instead, you're playing a game of chicken with your body's error-checking system. Ignore that fatigue, and you're basically saying, "Thanks, brain, but I've got this." The problem? Your brain is like a GPS that's recently updated and now insists on taking you through moody backroads instead of the smooth highway of adequate rest. Understanding how caffeine tweezes its way through the mind is crucial to using it wisely. Now, let's take a trip to one of the brain's hottest spots, the prefrontal cortex. This is where the big decisions happen, like whether to eat the last slice of pizza or resist temptation for the good of humanity. Caffeine takes a good, hard look at those adenosine receptors here and says, "Not today." It revives your executive function, making you sharp as a tack. With those receptors unblocked, you can think clearer and leave impulsive decisions at the door. But wait, there's more. Caffeine doesn't just work its magic in one area. It's a social butterfly flitting through different roles in your brain. In the striatum, for example, it ramps up your motivation and increases motor activity, making you feel like a turbocharged robot. Are you suddenly inclined to tackle your tasks instead of scrolling through endless memes? Blame the caffeine, yeah, that's the ticket. Next up, Let's check out the locus coeruleus, a VIP area in your brainstem. It's essentially producing the attention to tonic norepinephrine that sharpens your focus. Caffeine lays the smackdown on adenosine here, sending attention levels soaring. Distractions? They fade like yesterday's dust bunnies, and you're left feeling like a laser-focused ninja ready to pounce on any task. Who knew such a tiny structure could wield so much power? But not all brains react the same way. The amygdala, the brain's alarm system, behaves differently too. As the fatigue sets in, this region becomes besties with calmness, helping you feel less jittery and anxious. But caffeine slaps that idea out of the ring, re-engaging your emotional response. So, the next time you find yourself feeling either overly calm or hyper-alert, just remember that caffeine is juggling more than a few balls in your brain. Caffeine works like a cheeky little gatecrasher at the party that is your brain, crashing in and blocking all those cozy, calm signals your body sends to keep anxiety at bay. Instead of letting your amygdala chill out and relax, caffeine pumps it full of danger vibes, leading to those anxious, jittery moments you might experience. So, if you're already dealing with stress, caffeine decides to crank that dial up even more, making it less of a friend and more of a frenemy. When you're feeling fatigued, caffeine proudly clogs the emotional safety valves across your brain. Think of it as a bouncer at an exclusive club, allowing fatigue to go nowhere while simultaneously ignoring those poor, neglected negative emotions just waiting to rear their ugly heads. Your hippocampus, aka the memory maestro, also gets pulled into caffeine's crazy dance, unable to efficiently form new memories as adenosine gathers like an uninvited guest. Oh, but caffeine says, "Not today," and keeps those memories making gears churning even when you're on the brink of dozing off. The student's trusty sidekick, caffeine. It helps desperate learners pull all-nighters and retain the piles of information they're cramming into their heads. It's not just about staying awake, it's about letting the hippocampus do its thing and helping you remember until your brain practically bursts with knowledge. Caffeine is the academic adrenaline that makes it possible to squeeze in memory making through those hours of mind-numbing studying, ensuring those facts stick. Meanwhile, in another part of the party, the cerebellum, the coordination king, feels that fatigue pinch as adenosine levels rise, making your movements about as precise as a three-legged newborn giraffe. But caffeine swings by, ready to rescue your coordination skills and sharpen your focus. No wonder pilots, athletes, and anyone needing a keen sense of balance makes caffeine their go-to. It lets them maintain precision and perform flawlessly, even on the roughest of days. What's truly fascinating is that caffeine isn't just an adrenaline shot. It's a full-fledged symphony composed of various effects throughout your brain. Imagine a wild orchestra playing a chaotic yet captivating medley of functions, from attention to emotional processing to memory formation. It's a party in your head where the outcome isn't the same for everyone. Our unique brain chemistry means some ride the caffeine high like champs while others buckle under its jittery spell. And let's not forget about dopamine, your brain's favorite cheerleader. As the sun rises and sets, that little powerhouse drives our desire for novelty and excitement, essentially shouting, "This is important. Go pursue it." Forget the simplistic idea that dopamine is just about pleasure. It's all about motivation and attention. It pushes us to chase after goals, notice the shiny objects in life, and ignore the boring stuff. So there you have it, caffeine and dopamine practicing their own distinct dances in the rhythm of our lives. Whether you're drinking your third cup of coffee in the afternoon or pondering life with a clear mind at midnight, just remember that this push and pull between energy and motivation is what makes us who we are. We are all wired differently, and that's what keeps the brain party lively, surprising, and endlessly entertaining. Caffeine, the beloved pick-me-up, may be more than just a morning habit. It significantly impacts the brain's dopamine signaling. By blocking adenosine, caffeine keeps your brain alert and motivated, but also plays a sneaky role in the dopamine system. Imagine, when you're running low on energy, adenosine takes the wheel and drags your motivation down. Suddenly, even your favorite activities seem about as exciting as watching paint dry. Enter caffeine to save the day. With caffeine in your system, adenosine's grip loosens, allowing dopamine levels to surge. The world transforms into a vibrant carnival of colors and sounds. Tasks that felt tedious suddenly become engaging adventures. No wonder coffee drinkers often feel like superheroes after their first sip. It's not just about staying awake, it's about savoring the rich aroma, the warmth of the mug, and the delightful taste each sip makes mundane life feel like an exciting journey. However, here's where things get a bit tricky. When your brain learns to expect that sweet dopamine boost from coffee, it starts to crave it. The brain creates a direct route from "I see a coffee cup" to "oh boy, dopamine time." This anticipation ingrains a dependence that's psychological rather than physical. Without your treasured caffeine, the world can suddenly appear bleak and dull, like an old black and white movie on a rainy day. It's not quite the agony of heroin withdrawal, but it's a genuine struggle nonetheless. Caffeine, while not as drastic a villain, can still make your brain reconfigure its entire reward system around the joy of coffee. You start noticing how non-caffeinated activities just don't cut it anymore, leaving you longing for familiarity. Many long-term caffeine fans find that a brief break reveals just how reliant they've become. Everything feels less exciting without their caffeinated boost. Now, let's add a twist to this tale. Caffeine's impact on dopamine isn't uniform across the brain. In some areas, it skyrockets dopamine signaling, while in others, it throws a temper tantrum. Take the prefrontal cortex, for example. It's crucial for decision-making and focus, but it doesn't work best with an overwhelming dopamine flood. Instead, it thrives in that perfect Goldilocks zone. Not too much, not too little, just right. This phenomenon, known as the Yerkes-Dodson law, highlights that optimal arousal is key for peak performance. Too little makes your focus fade, while too much chaos turns your brain into scrambled eggs. So, while caffeine can supercharge your motivation, it's a double-edged sword in precise situations. You might find that your thoughts become disjointed if you've gone overboard with the Java. So, balance is the name of the game. Cafes may be buzzing with caffeine lovers, but being aware of how it interacts with your brain and mood is essential. Enjoy that cup, but remember to mix in some decaf or a mindful break every now and then. You just might discover a newfound appreciation for the simpler, caffeine-free joys of life. With a sprinkle of awareness, you can savor the perks of caffeine without letting it dictate your daily adventures. Picture this: you're buzzing with energy, wide awake, fully engaged in your day like a caffeinated squirrel. You've hit that sweet spot of optimal prefrontal dopamine signaling, a euphoric high of alertness. But, oh no, you grab that third cup of coffee. Suddenly, you find yourself scattered and distracted, teetering on the edge of chaotic impulsivity. Welcome to the ironic side effects of caffeine. It turns out that overdosing on coffee might just launch you from focused bliss to over-caffeinated mayhem. Your reaction to caffeine is as unpredictable as a roller coaster ride. One day, that espresso shot will have you conquering mountains of creativity. The next, you're just riding the wave of jittery confusion. A cocktail of factors, fatigue levels, time of day, and even your snappy emotional state determines whether caffeine will power you up or throw you into a whirlwind of twitchy distractions. So your brain is basically an amusement park where the ride operator, you, is humorously clueless about which ride is next. At the heart of this merry chaos sits the suprachiasmatic nucleus, your brain's pint-sized master clock chilling just above your optic nerves. Imagine, if you will, 20,000 diligent neurons working tirelessly to keep your circadian rhythm on track, orchestrating everything from your sleep to your appetite. This tiny structure ensures that even in complete darkness, your body will cycle through waking and sleeping phases on a nifty 24-hour loop. Proof that even the smallest things can pack a hefty punch. But nature throws a curveball. Most humans have a natural rhythm slightly longer than that 24-hour mark. Think 24.5 to 25 hours. It's like time has decided to take a vacation. Light becomes your brain's favorite alarm clock, striking precisely in the morning to reset your internal clock while sending a wake-up call to cortisol, the hormone that helps boot you out of bed. Meanwhile, melatonin, the cozy hormone promoting sleep, is politely told to take a backseat. As day transitions to dusk, your supreme cluster of neurons senses the dwindling light and pulls the brake on daytime energy. Signals shift as melatonin rises, and your body goes into wind-down mode like a theater performance drawing to a close. Camaraderie between your brain and body is a beautiful thing, assuming no unforeseen caffeine dramas unfold. After all, build-up of adenosine throughout the day increases your body's sleep pressure, which is also governed by your circadian rhythm. What a tangled web. Now, enter caffeine, the imposter crashing the sleep party, yet not directly interfering with your internal clock. Instead, it plays an expert game of disguise, blocking adenosine receptors like a ninja. Not ready for bed? No, thank you. Caffeine whispers to you, who needs sleep when you could just keep caffeinating? But the party can't last forever. Once the caffeine gets metabolized and the dance floor clears, those adenosine signals come roaring back. Your body is caught in a love triangle between the time of day signals urging you to sleep and the caffeine-induced denial of fatigue. Mixed signals galore. Eventually, as the curtains close on your caffeine adventure, your hard-working suprachiasmatic nucleus and its buddies will remind you that rest is just a snooze button away. It's a wacky ride, indeed. As the effects of caffeine wear off, adenosine makes a dramatic return, leading to the infamous caffeine crash. Picture this, you're buzzing around midday, but by afternoon, your body is ready to snooze. If you've chugged that afternoon joe, be warned. Sleep signals may be taking an extended vacation, leaving you wide awake when the circadian clock says it's time to catch some ZS. Talk about a cosmic mix-up. This caffeine hangover leads to a non-stop, exhausting cycle. You can't sleep at your usual hour, so you find yourself awake when the world surely isn't. With shorter, fragmented sleep, you wake up feeling like a zombie at dawn with no sunshine or chanting necessary. To remedy this eternal fatigue, more coffee becomes your lifeline, but surprise! There goes your circadian rhythm, out the window yet again. Exploring the dark side of caffeine becomes your new pastime. Sleep hygiene experts aren't kidding when they recommend avoiding caffeine after 2 or 3 p.m. Seriously, half-life alert. The average Joe or Jane takes about 5 to 6 hours to eliminate half of that espresso shot, leaving you wired well into the night. Had your last cup at 3? There's still a quarter of that caffeine lurking in your system deep into the early hours. Sneaky little devil. For sensitive folks, that lingering caffeine can be a recipe for sleepless nights. But hang on, it gets more interesting. Humans didn't exactly evolve back when lattes were served on every corner. Our circadian rhythms were shaped in a caffeine-free zone. Now, we're navigating through a storm of chaotic sleep cycles, where our internal clocks are screaming at us to snooze while caffeine plays the villain. Over time, this crazy disconnect doesn't just mess with your sleep, it can lead to metabolic disorders, heart issues, and mood swings that make you feel like you're living in a roller coaster of chaos. Life becomes a caffeinated balancing act, especially for night shift workers. These champs rely on caffeine to stay alert during odd hours, but their health becomes a casualty in the war against sleep. Meanwhile, teenagers, forced to start school in the wee hours, are chugging coffee to push through classes. While caffeine might be a quick fix, it wreaks havoc on their circadian system and mental health, turning them into yawning zombies just as the bell rings. Adding to the confusion, caffeine has a quirky relationship with our circadian rhythms. It's far better at keeping us awake in the evening than giving us that morning boost. By then, our body's internal alarm clock is already yelling, Wake up. Caffeine shows up to the party but only amplifies what's already happening. In the evenings, that same adenosine, which induces sleep, is calling in reinforcements to enter caffeine, who crashes the party and flips the script on a restful evening. And here's the kicker: while that morning cup seems to elevate your natural alertness, evening coffee feels like a slap fight with nature itself. The battle is real, where caffeine clashes with your body's biological signals. Your circadian clock is having a mini crisis, sending out sleep signals while the caffeine blocks them out. It's like throwing a rager when everyone else is ready for bed, vividly chaotic and anything but restful. So be wary, coffee lover. The delicate dance between caffeine and your circadian rhythm is all worth monitoring. Your morning coffee ritual may feel like the ultimate pick-me-up, but it sets off a series of changes in your body that are anything but ordinary. If you're sipping on that sweet nectar daily, your body starts to expect it like an overzealous puppy waiting for its morning treat. It syncs up with your caffeine schedule, and before you know it, your circadian clock is adjusting itself to accommodate your routine. Forgetting your caffeine fix on a laid-back weekend can lead to strange effects: dizziness and confusion. Caffeine's ability to mess with your internal clock is only scratching the surface. When we mention caffeine addiction, eyebrows often shoot up. It's comedic how we differentiate caffeine from the heavy hitters like heroin or meth. As valid as those arguments are, caffeine's effects on the brain aren't entirely different. Get ready for a wild ride through neuroadaptation. Your brain doesn't just sit there when you drink coffee. It's on a mission to adapt and evolve with every sip. Initially, your brain reacts to caffeine by increasing alertness and dopamine levels, like putting the pedal to the metal. However, brains aren't static, oh no. They're like clever chameleons, constantly adjusting. This is where sensitization kicks in, making your brain more responsive, and then, the ultimate plot twist, desensitization. Over time, that once potent morning brew no longer hits the same way. You're awake, but not quite as zippy as before. Is it your fault? Nope. It's your brain pulling some adaptation magic on you. As you continue to indulge in your caffeinated habits, your brain develops tolerance. It's a sneaky little trick that develops after a few days of consistent consumption. You start needing 2 cups of joe when one used to do the trick. It sounds like a caffeine conspiracy where your body has decided your coffee is simply not strong enough anymore. Tolerance comes down to the adenosine receptor density and sensitivity changes. Essentially, your brain is on a quest to balance itself amidst the caffeine chaos. When caffeine blocks those adenosine receptors, your brain heroically steps up, producing even more receptors. This phenomenon is called upregulation, which sounds like a fancy term for your brain's way of maintaining equilibrium. Basically, if caffeine is throwing a party at the adenosine receptor's house, your brain is putting up a bigger venue to still let adenosine signal through. Clever, right? But plot twist. You now need a stronger caffeine jolt to feel anything close to what you felt initially. Tolerance is just the tip of the iceberg. Chronic caffeine use transforms your receptors even more. Not only do they multiply, but they also become desensitized, which means less responsiveness even when adenosine eventually binds itself. Your brain's juggling act doesn't stop there. It even adjusts gene expression related to adenosine signaling, changing the game on a molecular level. It's a whole production, and your brain is the star, adapting ingeniously to those espresso shots you just can't resist. In the quirky realm of caffeine, your brain ends up creating a comedic conundrum. As you guzzle coffee day in and day out, your brain finds itself upregulating adenosine production, that sneaky little chemical that tells you, hey, time to crash. Even as caffeine does its caffeinated dance to block this fatigue signal, your brain is all, challenge accepted. It responds by pumping up its adenosine output. Oh, the irony of trying to outrun your own tired signals. Now, let's talk caffeine withdrawal, A not-so-glamorous saga you realize you're in when you decide to kick that daily cup. After becoming tightly knit with your caffeine fix for days or weeks, going cold turkey can feel worse than being hit by a bus. Suddenly, it's like your brain suddenly forgot how to function, leaving you foggy, dazed, and possibly setting off a massive headache parade. It's like your body's doing a Broadway show called Why Did I Stop Drinking Coffee? So, why the drama? Well, your brain, now accustomed to a caffeine buffet, has cranked out adenosine in droves, making it oversensitive and ready to party when caffeine disappears. This flood of exhaustion signals rolls in like an uninvited guest at a supposed no-caffeine party, and you can't escape it. You may feel like you're swimming through molasses, weighed down by this avalanche of fatigue, and guess what? It's not pretty for days or weeks. But hey, it's not going to send you to the hospital, so there's a silver lining, right? The plot thickens when you realize not everyone's caffeine tolerance is in sync. Some can metabolize caffeine faster than you can say double espresso, leaving them blissfully unaffected. Then there are the slow metabolizers, who might as well have a caffeine baggage claim on their body. These genetic twists and turns serve up a little caffeine roulette. One friend guzzles coffee all day with ease, while another's wild after just one cup. Talk about a genetic lottery. And then there's that mysterious thing called incomplete tolerance. Here's the kicker: unlike some other substances, caffeine never ceases to work entirely, no matter how much you consume. You might build up some tolerance, but there's always a lingering pep in your step or perhaps a jitter in your fingers. While other drugs may have folks cranking up the dosage to dangerous levels, caffeine's unique groove keeps you feeling some sort of effect. Let's toast to moderation. This fascinating journey into caffeine and our brains teaches us an incredible lesson about how adaptable our minds really are. Think of your brain as the ultimate yoga instructor, constantly stretching and bending to maintain homeostasis. Each sip of coffee translates into a myriad of adaptive responses, showcasing a dance between external caffeinated chaos and the internal rhythm of neural adaptation. Now, let's take a step back in time. Back in the day, people didn't have to micromanage their attention like we do now. With life moving at a leisurely pace, demands for sustained focus were scant. Reading and writing were elite skills, held close to a select few. The hustle and bustle of modern life, with its relentless demands for uninterrupted attention, could have easily baffled our ancestors, who probably didn't even know how to spell ADHD. In our fast-paced digital age, attention is everything. Picture this: you're glued to a screen, juggling spreadsheets at work, while kids are expected to sit like little statues, absorbing every bit of information thrown at them. It's a modern circus where everyone's got to juggle their tasks with laser-like focus amidst constant notifications and distractions. Caffeine seems like the superhero needed for this intense battle of attentional prowess, swooping in to save the day or at least keep us awake long enough to pretend we're focused. Attention isn't just one cute little trick up our brain's sleeves. Oh no! It's a dazzling collection of fancy maneuvers. We've got selective attention, where you somehow manage to zero in on one thing while everything else blurs into oblivion. Then, there's sustained attention, which lets you cling to a task like a dog with a bone for hours on end. And let's not forget divided attention, the art of splitting your focus, perhaps trying to listen to a conference call while heroically pushing through your to-do list. Components of attention are run by special brain networks that work in harmony, kind of like an orchestra. The frontal parietal control network helps you steer your gaze where you want it. Meanwhile, the ventral attention network spots anything shiny or unusual that might distract you, making your attention flip like a pancake. And when your mind wanders, well, that's the default mode network having a cozy little nap, waiting for you to wake up and realize you've been scrolling through cat videos instead of studying. Adenosine, that sneaky little molecule, loves to build up like an unwelcome house guest. As it accumulates with fatigue, it starts messing with your ability to focus. You know that moment when your mind drifts off, and suddenly you're daydreaming about lunch instead of finishing that report. Enter caffeine, your knight in shining armor. By blocking adenosine's pesky grip, caffeine smooths out the neural chatter, letting your attentional networks operate like a well-oiled machine. But there's more to caffeine than just throwing the brakes on fatigue. It also gives dopamine a boost, effectively turning up the dial on how important your tasks seem. Suddenly, what felt like drudgery transforms into an exhilarating adventure. Writing that paper? Now, it feels like you're crafting the next big bestseller. At the same time, caffeine cranks up norepinephrine, the alertness amplifier, keeping you sharp and ready for bursts of focused activity and important information. Thanks to this delightful brew, you find yourself in the coveted state of flow. Meaning, distractions fade right into the background, and you feel like you're breezing through your tasks without even trying. Time gets funky, maybe it zooms by, or maybe it crawls, but either way, it's a wild ride. It's no wonder students sip on coffee during all-nighters or writers chase inspiration with their beloved cups. It's not just a quirk or habit, it's science in action. So, next time you take a sip, remember, you're not just gulping down a ritual, but accessing a world of neurochemical wonder. With caffeine on your side, you can tackle that overwhelming to-do list, conquer the complexities of modern life, and maybe, just maybe, turn your daydreams into accomplishments. Cheers to focus, productivity, and that magical brown liquid that keeps our brains buzzing. At the intersection of caffeine and attention lies a quirky paradox. Sure, caffeine can supercharge your attentional capacity like a rocket ship on its way to focus on town, but too much of it can turn your brain into a chaotic circus. Imagine being hyper-aware of every little thing, the ticking clock, the chirping birds outside, and even your own thoughts swirling like confetti. That's scattered attention for you, where your nervous system is firing on all cylinders but doesn't quite zip your focus where it should go. It's the classic conundrum of being too on, which leaves you helpless against minor distractions. Ever heard of the inverted U relationship? It's like Goldilocks and her porridge, where too little or too much arousal is just too much. You're in deep water if you can't muster enough arousal to focus, but tipsy on caffeine? You're flying past the optimal concentration speed limit and crashing into confusion. Caffeine can be a lifesaver for sleep-deprived students burning the midnight oil, but if you've had a good night's sleep, that extra cup might just push your brain over the edge from clarity to a hot mess of a mental scramble. Let's introduce a couple of brains into the mix, namely System 1 and System 2, thanks to neuroscientist Daniel Kahneman. System 1 is that satisfying mode for automatic, well-learned tasks, like making toast or dodging awkward small talk. In contrast, System 2 guides you through tougher mental mazes that require sustained focus, like studying for exams or trying to sort out your taxes. Caffeine shines brightly here because it pumps up your capacity for active thinking. But, tread carefully. All that focus can sometimes make you a bit slower on the uptake in situations where you'd normally breeze through. Now, how does caffeine mix with creativity? The funny thing is, while a dash of caffeine can lift your creative juices by boosting dopamine networks, too much might just construct a creativity roadblock. If you've ever heard artists gripe about too much caffeine destroying their flow, it's likely because creativity thrives on a state of relaxed engagement, not the laser-guided focus that comes from caffeine overindulgence. Just like that famous inverted U relationship makes another appearance. Moderate caffeine levels strike a balance, while excessive caffeine can smother those glorious, free-form creative thoughts. Caffeine doesn't just play games with attention, it has a temporal twist, too. Initially, it's like a superhero. About 30 to 90 minutes post-sip, you're at peak performance, hyper-focused and churning out great ideas. But as the caffeine levels plateau and retreat, so does your attentional edge, leaving you yawning and scattered once more, explaining why coffee aficionados opt for multiple cups through the day. It's a crafty strategy to exploit those successive waves of peak focus without crashing down in between. Speaking of patterns, there's an odd side effect that caffeine veterans often talk about. After months or years of daily Java ritual, they might struggle to focus even without that beloved brew. It's as if their brains have made an unshakable pact with caffeine, demanding its presence to function smoothly on tasks that were once a breeze. This curious twist suggests that chronic caffeine use might craft some lasting changes in our attention networks. It's almost like our minds develop an addiction not just to caffeine, but to the focus it promises. So be cautious out there. Your coffee habit might just alter your mental landscape in unexpected ways. Caffeine, the magical elixir that keeps the world buzzing, isn't just a harmless little pick-me-up. It rewires your brain's attention. That's right. The moment you decide to give up your beloved brew, your brain might throw a tantrum. Think of it as the brain's version of a caffeine hangover, where all those years of high alert status come crashing down, making you wonder how you ever managed to function pre-caffeine. It's almost like getting an immediate downgrade to the dial-up internet of alertness. And trust me, it's not pretty. Now, here's where it gets really spicy. Everyone experiences this jolt differently because plot twist biology. Yep, your genes are quietly working behind the scenes, determining how your body processes caffeine. Meet CYP1A2, the enzyme hero produced by your liver. For some, it's a Speedy Gonzales, breaking down caffeine with lightning speed, while others have a slow and steady version that keeps caffeine around longer so they can savor the bliss of alertness or the agony of endless jittering. But wait, there's more. Picture this: two friends, one the speedy metabolizer and the other the chill metabolizer. If they both sip a cappuccino at 3 p.m., Speedy might be dozing off by dinner, while Chill will be tossing and turning all night counting sheep or staring at the ceiling. It's not about the coffee being wrong, it's just two bodies playing by different rules of caffeine engagement. As they say, different strokes for different folks. Now, coffee's effects don't stop at metabolism. They sneakily play with things like anxiety and blood pressure too. Studies reveal that slow metabolizers seem to ride both the high and the low of caffeine, all the alert perks, but also the jittery downsides like sleep disruptions and heart palpitations. Meanwhile, Speedy's ride is much smoother, with caffeine's charms and pitfalls cruising along at a comfortable speed. Wait, there's a genetic plot twist just waiting to unfold. Different variations in our receptor genes mean some people naturally dance around their high alert selves. Caffeine barely nudges them. Then, there are those whose baseline is stuck on snooze mode when they sip caffeine. It's as if they've found the magic go button. For them, it's like caffeine transforms their sluggish selves into turbocharged versions, ready to seize the day without hitting the snooze button 5 times. And we can't forget the role of age. It's like a caffeine twist on the aging process, where younger folks might bounce back from their caffeine-induced excitement quicker, while older folks might need a bit more time to recover from their jittery high. Each cup of coffee essentially transforms from just a beverage to a personalized potion, as our bodies and routines continue to shuffle their genetic card decks in the caffeine game. In the grand scheme of things, caffeine remains the life of the party. It's like a roller coaster for your brain, thrilling and energizing for some, while leaving others clutching the safety bar for dear life. Understanding these quirks in how we all process caffeine makes for a lively conversation starter. It's a reminder that coffee isn't just a drink, it's a personal love affair that varies from person to person, bringing the fun back into knowing there's no one-size-fits-all to how we fuel our caffeinated adventures. It's fascinating how our relationship with caffeine changes as we age. For older adults, caffeine metabolism can slow down significantly compared to their younger counterparts. Imagine waking up and enjoying your morning brew, only to find it hits you harder and longer than it used to. This shift often leaves the elderly feeling wired for hours, and let's face it, who needs that encore performance after a long day? Pregnant women, listen up. Your body's caffeine processing skills take a vacation during those 9 months. In fact, you might metabolize caffeine at half the speed of non-pregnant women. This makes it crucial for expectant mothers to cut back on their Java. That seemingly innocent cup of coffee now has the potential for higher peaks and prolonged effects. And let's just say, decaf becomes your best friend for a while. The medication merry-go-round also impacts how caffeine behaves in your system. Birth control pills, antidepressants, and other meds introduce a whole new ballgame, slowing caffeine metabolism even more. If you've recently started a medication and noticed your usual cup of joe packing a hefty punch, it's likely a disruption in your CYP1A2 enzyme at play, sending your caffeine buzz into overdrive. But wait, there's more. Your body's clock plays a role too. Did you know that caffeine is processed differently depending on when you drink it? CYP1A2 production peaks in the morning and evening, meaning a morning dose gives you an effortless boost, while a noon sip may leave you feeling jittery. Next time you need a pick-me-up, timing could be everything. Sipping in the morning could save you from the midday crash. Gender, too, has its say when it comes to how caffeine acts on you. Research suggests women might experience heightened sensitivity to caffeine, leading to an uptick in anxiety or sleep disruption. But hold on, not all evidence plays by those rules. Variability in body weight and caffeine dosage could be behind it all, making it difficult to draw blanket conclusions about who can handle their coffee best. Stress levels dance with caffeine effects, creating a merry chaos in your system. While caffeine can activate focus in a Zen state, paired with heightened cortisol and adrenaline during stressful times, it can turn light anxiety into a full-blown episode. So, if you're on edge, sipping that espresso may exacerbate your concerns rather than help you get things done. Who knew caffeine could double as an emotional roller coaster? Let's not forget about our personal gut buddies, the bacteria in your microbiome. Recent studies reveal that your unique gut flora can change how caffeine is metabolized, leading to a mixed bag of effects based on your bacterial composition. This means that all the genetic, physiological, psychological, and environmental quirks come together, shaping your very own caffeine narrative. Ultimately, caffeine's effects are like choosing your own adventure book. Sure, it may boost focus for many, but for others, it could cloud their minds instead. To navigate this caffeine-infused landscape, you need to pay close attention to your body. Dissect the differences between placebo effects and genuine responses, and embrace a personalized understanding of how caffeine makes you tick. Your relationship with caffeine is uniquely yours, shaped by a cocktail of factors that deserve exploration. Caffeine is like that over-enthusiastic friend who can turn a casual gathering into a full-blown rave. It mainly struts its stuff in the brain, blocking adenosine receptors that usually lull you into a cozy sleep. However, caffeine's party doesn't stop there. It goes on a body-wide tour that absolutely deserves a spotlight. One of its star acts is in the cardiovascular realm, where it plays with your heart and blood vessels, delivering effects that read both significant and a tad mischievous. When you're feeling tired, adenosine levels skyrocket, coaxing your blood vessels to widen, lowering your blood pressure like a gentle hug. But once caffeine crashes the scene, that adenosine chill gets blocked, and your blood vessels clench up tighter than a pair of skinny jeans. The result? A quick spike in blood pressure and heart rate. While the coffee Kool-Aid might be harmless for most young folks, if your blood vessels are already having a tough time, a caffeine-induced freakout could lead to some serious heart drama. Now, let's not forget about the kidneys, those mysterious little bean-shaped organs. When adenosine accumulates in them, it pulls a fast one by reducing blood flow and helping your body hang on to water. Enter caffeine, which kicks out adenosine and gives your kidneys a boost, making you pee like there's no tomorrow. But hold on to your coffee cups. The whole caffeine makes you lose water. The notion is a bit exaggerated because regular drinkers quickly build up a tolerance to this diuretic whirlwind. And just when you think caffeine's done, it pulls out an even bigger trick. It releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, making it feel like you're training for a marathon while just sitting at your desk gulping down that frappuccino. This temporary adrenaline boost is pretty harmless, sprucing up your energy and focus. But if you're hitting the caffeine repeatedly, your body starts to think it's constantly facing a bear in the wild, leading to chronic stress. It's like living in a permanent horror movie. The longer you party with caffeine, the more it stirs up a storm of stress hormones. The aftermath. Picture inflammation waltzing through your body, immune functions packing their bags for an extended vacation, and sneaky metabolic changes that could even give you a belly. All this commotion might hijack your glucose and fat distribution, conveniently setting the stage for health issues down the line. So, as harmless as that morning cup of joe seems, your body might be raising a red flag when you least expect it. Overviewing the caffeine carnival, it's clear that moderation is key. While it can jumpstart your day and improve focus, the side effects can create a ruckus if you're not careful. Consuming caffeine responsibly can ensure you ride the high energy wave without tipping the balance into the chaos of chronic stress or health hiccups. So, hold your cappuccinos close, but remember to give your body a break now, and then no one enjoys the party crasher, after all. Chronic stress hormone elevation can be a downer, quite literally. It ramps up the risk for depression, anxiety, and cognitive decline. While caffeine may feel like your sip of salvation, an instant pick-me-up for those languid moments, it isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Long-term, heavy caffeine use comes at a metabolic price. So, while it might seem like your loyal productivity partner, remember there's more brewing beneath the surface. Let's talk about your trusty digestive system. Caffeine isn't just a wake-up call for your brain, it throws a party in your stomach too. By increasing stomach acid production and ramping up digestive tract contractions, it can help some digest better. Hey, if constipation is knocking at your door, caffeine might help swing it wide open. But for others struggling with acid reflux or ulcers, caffeine can just pour salt into the wound, and no one enjoys that drama. Then there's the issue of your bones. Yep, caffeine is a bit of a skeleton joker as well. It actually increases calcium excretion through urine. Sure, if you're getting your calcium fix, it's not a skeleton crisis just yet. But over years of heavy caffeine guzzling, one might flirt with osteoporosis, particularly if their calcium intake is already on the skinny side. So, before reaching for that third espresso, here's a friendly reminder to load up on those calcium-rich snacks. Caffeine's effect doesn't stop at your bones. It even throws a little shade on your body temperature. Thanks to a little hormonal hustle, caffeine nudges your metabolic rate upward, which means you might feel a slight warmth creeping in. This is why it often winks at weight loss as well. But newsflash, this metabolic boost is modest. Think of it as more of a gentle nudge on your calorie burn, not a full-on sprint towards weight loss without dietary changes. Oh, but wait, there's more. Caffeine also has some quirky effects on your vision. By constricting blood vessels in your eyes, it can sharpen visual acuity, but not everyone's on board with that joy ride. For those grappling with glaucoma, adding more caffeine could ramp up intraocular pressure, potentially transforming a casual coffee break into a risky business. It's a fine line between clarity and chaos in the caffeine game. And let's not forget the endocrine system. Caffeine is like that meddling friend who stirs the pot at gatherings. It toys with reproductive hormones and can be a bit of a wild card when it comes to fertility. Though the research is a mixed bag, heavy caffeine consumption is like that unreliable bicycle you never know if it'll take you for a spin or leave you stranded. Plus, it can also mess around with thyroid functions, keeping the mystery alive regarding its overall influence. Finally, caffeine's effects are a roller coaster ride through various ages. What might have you buzzing at 30 could send a 10-year-old spiraling. Infants have no business with caffeine. Their tiny bodies are more like sponges than experienced caffeine connoisseurs. Pediatricians strongly recommend steering clear of caffeinated drinks for little ones, given their developing brains and the critical role of adenosine. Blocking that helpful little guy could throw a wrench in their mental development and connections. So let's keep the Java for the grown-ups. In their early years, children bounce around life like little energy dynamos, fueled by pure natural exuberance and not a speck of caffeine in sight. These pint-sized powerhouses thrive on their natural sleep cycles and a whirlwind of play. With their charmingly robust circadian systems and perfectly tuned adenosine regulation, caffeine isn't even on their radar. Unlike adults, who sip coffee like it's oxygen, little ones relish in a caffeine-free existence, blissfully unaware of the caffeinated chaos to come. Then comes the roller coaster of adolescence, where caffeine enters the scene like an unexpected plot twist. Teenagers start sipping sodas, guzzling energy drinks, and mingling with coffee. These beloved beverages become their secret weapons in the ongoing battle against extreme sleep deprivation. Early school hours crash headfirst into their newly shifting sleep rhythms, leading to a messy cocktail of fatigue and caffeine dependence. It's a miracle they manage to stay awake during those morning classes. While their brains are still gearing up for an epic growth spurt, caffeine can throw a wrench in their cognitive development. With the prefrontal cortex still catching up, that advice about skipping caffeine isn't just a buzzkill, it's scientifically solid. Research suggests teens who sip on too much caffeine often deal with increased anxiety and behavioral hiccups. It's as if their newly caffeinated status sets them up for a lifetime of reliance on that morning Java just to feel normal. As they glide into young adulthood, caffeine morphed from a fun thrill ride into a vital cog in the machinery of life. Balancing jobs, education, social outings, and what's that? Lack of sleep. Caffeine enters as the go-to lifesaver. By now, their brains are evolving more naturally to handle the buzz, despite the perils of dependence lurking in the shadows. But those long-standing caffeine habits that began in teenage years might just stick around, creating a routine where their bodies misinterpret caffeine as a prerequisite for function. Middle age, however, brings another whirlwind of complexities. Just when they thought they were experts in caffeine consumption, their bodies toss in some surprises. With age comes slower caffeine metabolism, and that golden cup of coffee starts feeling a little extra potent. As sleep quality takes a nosedive, many find that their trusty coffee now feels like a mischievous gremlin robbing their nights of sweet slumber. Plus, this period can clash badly with hormonal changes in women, who suddenly find caffeine is no longer their loyal friend. Now, as they enter the wise years of old age, caffeine sensitivity skyrockets. The sleep-sabotaging effects become downright severe. Many elderly warriors of caffeine discover that a simple afternoon cup can obliterate their chances of hitting the hay that night. To add to the cosmic stack of caffeine woes, age-related medical conditions like high blood pressure and atrial fibrillation become unwitting accomplices in their caffeine saga, further complicating the balance. It's truly a symphony of late-life caffeine chaos, with sleep thieves lurking at every corner. In the end, the labyrinth of caffeine consumption echoes through the ages, starting from childhood sprinklings of joy, maturing through the ups and downs of teenage caffeine drama, and wrestling burdens in adulthood. And spoiler alert, this cyclical reliance only amplifies as the years accumulate. The coffee cup, once seen as a simple pick-me-up, morphs into a tangled relationship, where managing its effects becomes a lifelong challenge. Every sip is a reminder caffeine may have started off as youthful fun, but it's never quite done playing the villain in our lives. For many seniors, cutting back on caffeine proves to be a magical elixir for a restful night. They report better sleep quality, reduced anxiety, and even healthier heart rhythms. But let's face it, giving up that morning Java is no walk in the park. It's like trying to leave a packed concert early. The dependency is real, and many are convinced caffeine has stopped affecting them. Spoiler alert, it hasn't, even if they wish it would pack its bags and leave. The saga of caffeine consumption tells a familiar story. It's a roller coaster ride that begins with pristine childhood innocence, peaks during the rambunctious college years, and then hangs on well into the golden years. Unfortunately, even with the aging marathon of life, many find themselves chugging more caffeine despite the toll it can take. Sure, some folks enjoy their coffee in moderation, but most are locked in a caffeine tango that's hard to break free from. Sleep isn't just a black and white affair. It's more like a colorful disco of different stages, each with its own funky groove. Imagine your brain partying through a 90-minute cycle of light sleep, deep sleep, and REM. Light sleep is like the warm-up act, easing you into slumber town, while deep sleep provides the headliner with all the restoration fun. And then there's REM sleep, where your vivid dreams take the stage, letting loose and inevitably leaving you pondering life's mysteries by morning. Adenosine is like the gentle usher into sleep, gradually building up over the day. The more adenosine you pile on, the deeper your deep sleep is likely to be. But here comes caffeine, crashing the party like an overzealous bouncer, blocking adenosine and leaving you tossing and turning instead of dreaming sweetly. So, while you may eventually fall asleep, say goodbye to high-quality deep sleep and snooze away in a state far from restful. Caffeine's impact doesn't just stop at blocking adenosine. It also messes with the intricate structure of your sleep. Those unlucky enough to sip caffeine later in the day often find their precious sleep time compromised. The deep sleep, which should be abundant in those early cycles, might take a vacation, leaving only a faint shadow behind. As for REM sleep, it could be all dressed up with nowhere to go, leading to emotional highs and lows when caffeine finally waves goodbye and drags you back down for a muddled rebound. The betrayal doesn't end there. The fallout from missing out on deep and REM sleep isn't just a headache in the morning. It's a long-term cognitive rollercoaster. Physical restoration takes a backseat, crucial memories wave goodbye, and your brain misses its creative moments, all thanks to caffeine's meddling. After a while, the chaotic cocktail of slumber devoid of restoration can contribute to cognitive decline. Talk about a caffeine hangover you didn't sign up for. And don't forget about your brain's housekeeping crew, the glymphatic system. While you're dreaming away, this system diligently clears out metabolic waste that builds up while you're awake, ensuring your brain stays sharp. But when your sleep is shallow and keeps getting interrupted, it's like sending that crew for a coffee break. The cleanup won't be up to snuff, paving the way for potential cognitive fog. So, sipping on that extra cup of joe may just lead to more than groggy mornings. It turns out that you might want to think twice about that afternoon espresso if you're trying to catch some quality ZS. Recent research has shown that sleep deprivation can lead to a buildup of amyloid beta and two other proteins closely linked to Alzheimer's disease. So, chronic sleeplessness is more than just crankiness. It's becoming a significant risk factor for cognitive decline. And guess what? Caffeine isn't just keeping you up at night, but could also be putting your brain at risk in the long run. Have you ever found yourself lying awake in bed after a caffeine hit, even though you usually fall asleep in record time? That's sleep latency for you, which is basically just a fancy term for how long it takes to doze off. Caffeine can turn that cozy 15-minute drift into an agonizing 45-minute wait. So, the next time you're tossing and turning, consider that cup of joe might be playing dirty, blocking adenosine, the sleep signal you need to fall asleep peacefully. While you may think you've slept soundly through the night, your brain might tell a different story. Caffeine can lead to those sneaky micro-awakenings that are like under-the-radar interruptions to your slumber party. You may not remember waking up, but EEG studies show your brain bounces around during the night like a pinball machine. This disruption means you're not getting that deep, restorative sleep, leaving you more drained and groggy when morning rolls around. To spice things up, researchers are even taking a closer look at caffeine's impact on something called REM sleep behavior disorder. Sounds intense, doesn't it? Here's the kicker. Heavy caffeine consumers are showing signs of this disorder, where dreams play out like episodes of an action movie with no sleep paralysis included. All of this shows caffeine isn't just about keeping you alert. It can mess with your REM sleep, impacting how you dream and, more importantly, how well you rest. But don't be fooled into thinking caffeine's short-term alertness comes without a price. As you stay wide awake and peak at your productivity, your night's rest becomes shallower and more fragmented. Over time, this can lead to chronic sleep deprivation with all sorts of nasty side effects. Think foggy brain, emotional roller coasters, and even a compromised immune system. Who knew that extra cup could come with such baggage? Now, here's where it gets a little twisty. Long-term caffeine users often feel great while they're riding the caffeine wave, but the moment they ditch it, they plummet into an abyss of fatigue and dysfunction. It's like the brain plays a little trick, adapting to all that caffeine and adjusting its baseline. So, when finally faced with an unaltered state, it feels foreign and, frankly, disappointing. It's a paradox, making it super hard to quit caffeine. This creates something called feeling compensated. You might feel completely normal while caffeinated and hopelessly impaired without it. Those sensitive adenosine receptors get bombarded when you stop caffeine, making you feel like you're dragging yourself through molasses. This is why so many caffeine quitters claim they feel totally off kilter after cutting the stuff, leaving them questioning whether they'll ever truly wake up from this caffeine-induced facade. Withdrawing from caffeine isn't a walk in the park. It can feel like hiking up Mount Everest without any gear. For 1 or 2 nail-biting weeks, coffee lovers suffer a decline in energy and focus. They might falsely convince themselves that they need caffeine to function, not realizing that their dependency has created a new normal, a dizzying plateau far above their actual baseline. It's like living in a caffeine-induced cloud nine while missing out on the clear skies of genuine alertness. But here's the kicker. If they manage to tough it out through that pesky withdrawal for a few weeks, a wonderful thing happens. Their adenosine receptors start to normalize, signaling a return to baseline levels. The irony: once they're back to their natural state, they may feel more alert and focused than during their caffeine days. However, let's be honest, most folks won't endure the grueling discomfort of withdrawal. Who wants to feel like a brain-dead zombie when there's a delightful cup of coffee that can instantly soothe those withdrawal blues? This entire caffeine conundrum boils down to a bizarre psychological dynamic, where the adapted caffeine state feels normal, and the sober state feels a bit dysfunctional. Transitioning through these phases can feel like falling into a dark pit of incapacity. And it's no wonder caffeine fans return to their favorite pick-me-up, even when they're fully aware of its sleep-disrupting, anxiety-increasing powers. The short-term relief is just too tempting. The truth is, caffeine dependence is more than just a matter of willpower. It's a roller coaster ride for the brain's wiring. Now, here's a twist that'll keep you intrigued. Some research hints that chronic caffeine users might never fully bounce back to their true baselines, even after months or years of abstaining. The brain can undergo some pretty serious reorganization, resulting in lingering changes like increased adenosine receptor density. In simpler terms, a heavy caffeine drinker might find that after a long caffeine break, the first sip of coffee packs a turbocharged punch compared to their pre-caffeine days. Talk about a wild ride for the brain. Caffeine's relationship with mental health brings another layer to this tale, as it can dance a complicated tango with one's mood. While caffeine can elevate mood and enhance focus, it can also exacerbate mental health issues like anxiety and depression. It's essential to keep in mind that caffeine is a central nervous system stimulant. It revs up the body's arousal systems and sends those stress hormones flying, which can be a double-edged sword. For someone feeling the weight of depression, caffeine can act as a quick pick-me-up, temporarily shaking off the doom and gloom. It increases dopamine in the reward pathways, firing up the feel-good vibes. Suddenly, the fatigue and apathy dissipate, making caffeine seem like a mild antidepressant on speed dial. Because honestly, who wouldn't want a legal and socially acceptable way to self-medicate? It's a quick fix, giving caffeine lovers a rush and a momentary escape from their troubles. In the end, the caffeine conundrum is a delightfully perplexing affair, one that balances precariously between feel-good relief and the risk of spiraling into dependence. For many, It's an enticing world where a cup of joe isn't just a beverage. It's a lifeline packed with highs, lows, and a dash of humor. Understanding this relationship is key to navigating the deliciously addictive landscape of caffeine and mental health. So, pour yourself another cup, and let's sip that. Imagine caffeine as that friend who promises to lift your spirits but ends up borrowing your good vibes instead. Initially, a cup of coffee might feel like a warm hug for your mood, but over time, that snug feeling fades. As your body adjusts to constant caffeine, it requires more to get that same boost. Unfortunately, instead of rising to euphoria, you might find your mood sinking lower than before. Now you're relying on caffeine not just to feel good, but just to feel average, a slightly less miserable version of yourself. Who knew the quick fix could be such a long-term con? Then there's the twist in the plot, a caffeine-fueled roller coaster ride with anxiety in the front seat. While you're chugging coffee to combat your low mood, you might unknowingly invite anxiety to the party. Caffeine blocks adenosine in the brain, which usually helps calm things down. Now, fear and anxiety signals are like that annoying DJ playing the same track on loop at a party you just can't get any peace. Instead of feeling chipper and upbeat, you may find anxiety crashing in, making you feel like you're on a caffeine-fueled mission to hyperventilate. And let's not forget the sneaky side effects of caffeine. It spikes your heart rate and blood pressure. Hello, physical symptoms of anxiety. Imagine your heart racing like it just spotted a bear while your mind starts a full-blown panic monologue. Am I having a heart attack? Did I leave the stove on? The physical sensations mimic anxiety, which only adds fuel to the fire of panic. For those already on high alert with anxiety disorders, caffeine can feel like inviting chaos into a quiet room. What was once a light tension can morph into a full-blown panic attack. Now, add sleep deprivation to the mix. Caffeine, the notorious insomniac's best friend, doesn't just impose its will on your alertness, it's a killer of blissful snoozes too. Lack of sleep heightens emotional reactivity and sensitivity, turning the brain into a hypercharged anxiety factory. The cycle spirals. Caffeine disrupts sleep, leading to anxiety, prompting more caffeine consumption, and surprise, it messes up sleep again. It's like that creepy feedback loop from horror movies that just won't die. Without the restorative sleep you need, the anxious feelings can feel like they're multiplying daily. For many caffeine lovers grappling with anxiety, kicking this devil's drink can be like peeling off an old band-aid. The relief can be astonishing. Symptoms that seemed indelibly linked to personality traits or genetic quirks might fade dramatically when caffeine packs its bags and leaves the building. This isn't to say caffeine caused the anxiety monster. Rather, it exacerbated the whole situation. It's akin to having a bull in a china shop, where caffeine serves as the bull, rampaging through anxiety's porcelain collection. On top of this caffeinated conundrum, those with bipolar disorder can bear the brunt of caffeine's unpredictable nature. Imagine sipping on that espresso only to find yourself spiraling into manic episodes. Caffeine, in its energetic glory, can send dopamine and norepinephrine soaring, making manic states leap into action. That's why many psychiatrists firmly advise their patients with bipolar disorder to steer clear of caffeine, keeping their mood swings in check rather than add to the thrill ride. And the story doesn't end there. ADHD and caffeine have an even more complicated relationship. Some ADHD warriors find comfort in caffeine, as it mimics the effects of medications. For them, caffeine can be a trusty sidekick in managing focus and impulse control. But for others, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire, spiking impulsivity and hyperactivity instead of reining it in. This inconsistency reflects the unique wiring of each person's dopamine system, making caffeine's impact a wildly different experience on the ADHD spectrum. So, in the end, whether it lifts your spirits or sends them tumbling, caffeine's influence might just leave you questioning your next cup. Caffeine is a peculiar little thing. For some people, it's the magical elixir that gifts them a dopamine high, transforming their sluggish mornings into energetic productivity. However, for others, especially those with ADHD, the effects might swing the other way, actually ramping up those pesky symptoms. Imagine needing a jolt of energy only to find yourself lost in a whirlwind of distractibility. Caffeine can be like a double-edged sword, cutting both ways for different folks. Now throw schizophrenia and psychotic disorders into the mix, and things get even trickier. While many enjoy their daily cup of joe, it's typically a no-go for those battling such conditions. Caffeine can amplify paranoia and heighten hallucinations, making symptoms feel more intense. And let's not forget to sleep. For those at risk, caffeine's interference with sleep can be a recipe for disaster, triggering episodes at the worst possible times. So, while lattes bring joy to millions, they might not be such a good idea in these circumstances. But hold on. The fun doesn't stop at the diagnosis. Chronic caffeine consumption can sneakily affect the mood and anxiety levels of the general population too. Many people stroll through their daily lives riding the waves of low-grade anxiety or mood swings, often oblivious to the fact that their trusty caffeine fix is playing mischief maker. Sure, a little caffeine adds a spring to your step, but when consumed daily, it can hijack your emotional stability. Talk about a plot twist. With repeated use, the brain learns some tricky moves. It starts down-regulating dopamine and other neurotransmitters, while strangely upregulating them in odd areas too. The endgame? When caffeine finally leaves the building, many find their baseline emotional state is a touch crummier than before they ever started. The things that once thrilled feel like chores, like that half-finished jigsaw puzzle sitting in the corner collecting dust. Yikes! It's like a mood hangover that sneaks up when you're not looking. However, the silver lining shines bright for those who pull the plug on caffeine after years of loyal service. Imagine feeling like a new person, where life's vibrant hues return. Months of heightened mental clarity, less anxiety, and a world that suddenly feels much more engaging can follow. The brain takes its sweet time, but about 2 to 4 weeks into the caffeine detox, many report a joyous return to a more stable emotional realm. It's truly a journey worth embarking upon. So, the big looming question: is caffeine a blessing or a curse? Is it truly worth the dance? The truth is, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. Each person's relationship with caffeine is unique like a thumbprint. It can either be a useful tool or lead to some serious mood mismanagement, depending on individual circumstances and health goals. It's a balance, requiring a bit of self-awareness to navigate. In specific scenarios, caffeine can shine like a star. Parents with sleepless nights, students cramming for finals, or long-haul drivers tired of the road, caffeine can prove wildly beneficial to get through those times of dire need. The key here is moderation and acute consumption rather than making it a daily crutch. When consumed wisely, moderate caffeine intake 2 to 4 cups daily is even linked to some health perks. Balance is truly the secret sauce in this caffeine conundrum. We've all been there. The mid-afternoon slump hits, and you're staring at your screen as if it's written in an alien language. Enter caffeine, the hero of our working hours. Studies have shown that moderate caffeine consumption can reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes, certain cancers, and even Parkinson's disease. Plus, it may just give our aging brains a much-needed boost. But hold on to your mugs. This isn't the end of the story. The relationship between caffeine and health isn't as cut and dry as a cup of black coffee. Yep, researchers have observed a J-shaped curve linking caffeine to mortality rates, where moderate coffee drinkers seem to kick the bucket a tad less often than the coffee-free or the caffeine junkies. Don't pop the bubbly just yet. These findings only scratch the surface and don't scream cause and effect. Those who sip moderately might also enjoy better fitness, sleep, or socio-economic situations, giving caffeine less credit than it might deserve. And let's not forget, while these population studies show averages, they do little to explain individual experiences. What's good for the crowd might be a recipe for disaster for one. Picture this. You, tired and wired, caffeine chucking your sleep out the window, causing anxiety or heart palpitations. It's like caffeine metabolism decides to throw a wild, unpredictable party, making you question if it's really worth it. When weighing caffeine's pros and cons, think of it like a timeline. In the immediate short term, caffeine is your best bud, sharpening your focus and alertness and getting you through yet another mind-numbing conference call. However, as the weeks roll on, that warm, fuzzy feeling gets hazy. You might face sleep disruption and jitters, leading some to wish they could turn back time. Those euphoric caffeine kicks just don't seem so sweet anymore. Fast forward to years down the line, and the caffeine joyride can feel more like a caffeine roller coaster. Once happily sipping, you now wrestle with dependence. You've probably trained your body to demand caffeine just to function, and the buddy you once loved is now a source of dread, ensuring nights of restlessness and days filled with anxiety. The price of your morning ritual starts to feel hefty as long-term effects loom like clouds over a picnic. Think you're boosting productivity with caffeine? Think again. While many have ingrained coffee breaks and caffeine-fueled brainstorming sessions into the workplace culture, research tells a more complex story. Companies stock up on bras and promote the "get your caffeine fix" mentality. But does caffeine truly help you churn out both quality and quantity? It's time to pull the coffee cup back and really dig into those studies. In essence, though caffeine has its perks, the longer you run its addictive treadmill, the less confident you might feel in its benefits. Is it the fix we need, or is it a slippery slope? Maybe a little caffeine can help with those late-night coding marathons, but when the latte love turns into a dependency trap, it's time for a caffeine intervention. Moderation might be a wise mantra, ensuring you sip wisely and savor those coffee moments. Caffeine's role in productivity is more intricate than many think. Sure, it can supercharge certain brain functions, boosting focus and attention like a shot of espresso in an otherwise sleepy meeting. Properly harnessed, it can help you zip through repetitive tasks, like proofreading or data entry, much faster. Who doesn't love the idea of a caffeine-fueled productivity sprint? But here's where it gets dicey. Context is key, and caffeine isn't the magical elixir everyone claims it to be. When it comes to routine tasks requiring little mental gymnastics, caffeine can be a reliable sidekick. Imagine someone tirelessly entering data, fueled solely by their third cup of coffee. Typing away like their fingers are on fire sounds productive, right? However, for tasks that require a sprinkle of creativity and complex problem-solving, caffeine's presence becomes a slippery slope. Too little energy can lead to daydreaming, while too much makes for rigid, tunnel vision thinking. It turns out there's an optimal sweet spot, and caffeine can easily nudge you into the land of excess. Research about caffeine and creativity presents a muddled picture. Some studies indicate caffeine hampers creative thinking, especially on tasks that call for generating a multitude of solutions for divergent thinking. Anyone? On the flip side, other research claims caffeine might enhance creative output. It's a classic case of it depends, hinging on individual traits like personality and the nature of the task at hand. Who knew a tiny bean could have such an identity crisis? Long-term and short-term productivity weigh heavily in the caffeine conundrum. Yes, you might tackle that report for the next few hours, but wait until the sun sets. If caffeine disturbs your sleep, the next day becomes a plodding affair, ruining your productivity. Consistent midday caffeine can chip away at your sleep quality, leading to a multifaceted drop in next-day output that exceeds the previous day's temporary highs. You might feel like a superhero now, but tomorrow could be a different story. Those die-hard caffeine aficionados often believe their productivity skyrockets after a jolt of Java. But when they go cold turkey for a few weeks, many are surprised to discover their productivity levels were actually quite similar, if not better, without those caffeine jags. The perception is part of the fun. The stimulated state feels different and more enlivened, cue the mistaken sense of heightened productivity. Let's not forget what really counts. Caffeine may drive you to check more boxes, but the true essence of productivity is not just about prolonged hours and frenetic energy. It's about deep thinking on pivotal tasks and producing high-quality work. Artists and scientists often have their brightest ideas during serene moments of reflection, far from the frenetic buzz of caffeination. Finally, think of caffeine while scrolling through emails or messaging apps. Just like these digital distractions, caffeine gives the illusion of productivity through quick tasks and staying busy, but can ultimately shatter your focus and prevent engaging in deep work. So as we navigate our daily grind, it's worth pondering. Is caffeine truly the key to unlocking higher productivity, or just another mirage in the productivity desert? Caffeine is the quirky member of the psychoactive drug family. Unlike its infamous relatives like alcohol and nicotine, it's legal, socially celebrated, and practically embedded in our daily lives, yet somehow it manages to fly under the radar as a real drug. We chug coffee and sip tea without a second thought, blissfully unaware that caffeine is as much a drug as anything else that messes with our brain. Seriously, folks, it's psychoactive, addictive, and can lead to some awkward withdrawal moments. So next time you're at the coffee shop, maybe give it a little more respect. Despite its darling status in society, caffeine's acceptance brings up intriguing questions about how we classify drugs. The dichotomy of legality and danger is a slippery slope. Just because something is okay to drink doesn't mean it isn't potent. Think about it. Caffeine wormed its way into our cultures back in the 17th and 18th centuries, just when Europe and America were gearing up for some serious industrialization. Workers needed a kick to get through those grueling shifts, and intellectuals craved focus. Voila! Enter caffeine, the unsung hero of modern productivity. If caffeine had arrived in today's landscape, we'd probably be handing over prescriptions instead of wallets to get our fix. With its knack for keeping us awake, its side effects on sleep, and its effects on heart health, today's regulatory bodies would raise some serious eyebrows. But since caffeine is now woven into the fabric of our daily routines thanks to centuries of tea and coffee rituals, it's regarded as innocuous, floating along without the need for cautionary labels. Just grab a cup and get on with your day, right? Caffeine serves as a curious bargain with modern life. It promises a tantalizing combination of productivity and alertness, but at the cost of disrupting our natural sleep patterns. So, while we chase our deadlines with a steaming cup of joe, we might forget the evolutionary rhythm our bodies are actually yearning for. And let's face it, the decision to become a caffeine fiend often sneaks up on us. One cup in the morning feels harmless until the day you can't function without it. Oops. As we sip away, the global caffeine story also unfurls a tale of inequality. The lush coffee plantations in Ethiopia, Brazil, and Colombia contrast sharply with the wealthier nations that gulp down the brewed glory. The farms are often run by underpaid workers laboring under tough conditions, while the affluent nations bask in the productivity perks of caffeine. It's a classic case of the rich enjoying the fruits, or should I say, the bruise of the labor of those in the global south. It's enough to make you reconsider that second cup. And let's not forget the role of caffeine in the modern workforce, particularly for women stepping into the professional realm. Caffeine has almost become a secret weapon, helping female workers juggle home and work life while battling societal expectations. Whether it's fueling early mornings or late night projects, caffeine has carved out a supportive role in their work-life balance. So next time you raise your cup, take a moment to appreciate not just the caffeine burst, but also its complicated legacy woven through history and gender dynamics. Cheers! As women juggled their professional and domestic responsibilities in the absence of reliable support systems, caffeine crept in as their superhero sidekick. Like a pint-sized barista in their pockets, it became the go-to solution for managing their bustling lives. Sure, it allowed for more participation in the workforce, but it also developed into a double-edged sword. Meeting societal expectations with a caffeine boost often meant women found themselves relying on a stimulant just to stay afloat in a sea of impossible demands. It's not that caffeine itself is the villain. The real problem lies in the sky-high expectations that make it feel like a necessity. So, what do you do when burnt-out brain cells scream for help, but you want to ditch the caffeine dependency? First up on the alternatives list: sleep. Nothing, I mean nothing, can rival the superpowers of a solid 8 hours of ZS. It's like the caffeine caper but better. With missed sleep, restful nights seem like a treasure map leading you nowhere good, particularly in a world that tosses demands your way like confetti. Speaking of treasures, while sleep may feel like an elusive dream, there are other gems for boosting alertness. Enter physical exercise. Just 30 minutes of moderate movement can deliver attention and focus that might put a cup of coffee to shame minus the jitters. Working out not only gets the heart pumping but gives your brain that refreshing jolt, leaving you energized without sacrificing sweet slumber. And let's shine a light on another important ally: morning sun. Soak up those glorious rays to sync your circadian rhythm like a true daytime diva. Natural light helps you wake up and remain alert, keeping the caffeine cravings at bay. Add some social interactions to the mix. Chatting with friends, brainstorming with co-workers, or simply laughing at a funny cat video can fire up your focus and turn that sleepy frown upside down. Now, if you ever find yourself in a not-so-sunny place, cold exposure can save the day. A brisk cold shower or a splash of icy water on your face can jumpstart your senses. Sure, it's not sustained like caffeine, but when you need a quick fix, nothing's quite as refreshing. It's like a mini shock to the system to combat fatigue and boost mental clarity when you desperately need it. Finally, let's talk breaks. Yes, those glorious intervals we often skip. Think of them as your productivity secret weapon. Taking short breaks of just 5 to 10 minutes can rejuvenate tired minds, making way for focused bursts of brilliance. And when combined with structured work periods featuring clear goals, your productivity can go from mopey to mighty. After all, meandering through vague tasks is a surefire way to lose focus. Who needs that chaos when a clear path can lead to true efficiency? While caffeine might promise a quick boost, the alternatives offer lasting benefits minus the rollercoaster of long-term effects. Sure, they require a bit more time and prep, but the trade-offs lead to less anxiety, no sleep disruptions, and ultimate freedom from dependence. So, why not set aside that cup of coffee and try lacing together some of these healthy strategies? Your future self will throw a confetti party in gratitude. For anyone trying to kick the caffeine habit without the drama of a cold turkey approach, a gentle slope down is the way to go. Abruptly saying goodbye to coffee can lead to an epic withdrawal saga filled with headaches and fatigue that might just send you racing back to the nearest espresso machine. Instead, if you gradually scale back your caffeine intake by 10 to 25% every few days or weeks, you'll give your brain the gift of time to adjust without the nasty side effects. During this caffeine detox, don't forget to sprinkle in some good old-fashioned self-care. Prioritizing sleep, getting your heart pumping with exercise, and soaking up some light can all help counterbalance the wakefulness that caffeine usually provides. Without these mood boosters, you might find yourself feeling like a zombie, heavy eyelids, cravings for a coffee fix, and all. Better to take it slow and steady than to tumble down the caffeine withdrawal rabbit hole. Now, if you're not quite ready to say goodbye to your daily Americano but want to dial back the jitters, there are clever ways to caffeinate with caution. For starters, front-loading your caffeine by chugging it down before 11 a.m. can work wonders for your sleep cycle. It's all about timing. You'll still enjoy your beloved brews, but with a reduced risk of tossing and turning during that nighttime rendezvous with your pillow. Speaking of timing, consider a caffeine cycle where you enjoy it intensely for a week or two before taking a break for the next one. This stop-and-go approach keeps your body from growing too attached and slows down tolerance buildup. Also, try mixing caffeine with food. Enjoy a tasty breakfast with your cup of java to ease that caffeine spike and help fend off any jittery drama. And for regular caffeine lovers, don't forget that exercise, quality sleep, and getting that morning sunshine can play vital supporting roles in your daily alertness without relying heavily on caffeine. These natural boosters not only make you feel great, but they can help offset some of caffeine's not-so-charming side effects. Think of them as your caffeine sidekicks, ready to swoop in and save the day. Now let's dive into the inner workings of caffeine, what it feels like when you take that first sip. Picture this. The sweet aroma of coffee wafts through the air and the anticipation bubbles up inside you. Your brain, getting all excited, starts spitting out dopamine even before you've taken a gulp. It's that magical connection where your love for coffee meets your brain's happy dance, turning a simple drink into a ritual that's hard to break. Once you finally cradle that warm cup, you enter the delightful spell of drinking coffee. The taste, the warmth, the whole experience, it's addictive in the best of ways. For many, just going through the motions of brewing and sipping coffee can get those good vibes flowing, even if they're indulging in decaf. Talk about the power of the placebo effect. After the first few minutes post-sip, you might not feel much different, but hang tight. Between 15 and 45 minutes later, caffeine starts working its magic. For newbies, the experience can feel like a roller coaster of clarity and energy. Thoughts sharpen. You feel that delightful buzz, and suddenly life seems a little more vibrant and full of possibility. Get ready to embrace the heart-racing excitement and dive headfirst into all the fantastic things the world has to offer. For those who rely on caffeine daily, the effects are like a smooth ride down a familiar road, subtle yet palpable. Instead of the adrenaline rush that newbies experience, chronic users often feel clearer in their thinking and sharper in their focus. Fatigue takes a backseat, and daily tasks become just that, normal. It's as though caffeine ushers them back into their groove, restoring things to how they should be. But hold on. The thrill of caffeine is a slippery slope, depending on what you're up to while you sip your favorite brew. Engaged in an exciting project? Caffeine cranks up the intensity, making those tasks feel almost euphoric. On the flip side, tackling something boring or stressful? Well, caffeine doesn't magically make it better. It ramps up that yawn-inducing agony to 11. So be warned, it amplifies both joy and drudgery. Most folks discover that caffeine peaks around 30 to 45 minutes after consumption, like a party crasher that arrives just when things get interesting. Once that high fades, usually after about 3 to 5 hours, caffeine's effects dwindle. However, slow metabolizers might sport that energetic flair for up to 10 hours, a delightful surprise for those who enjoy caffeine's lingering prowess. However, if you're feeling brave enough to ditch caffeine after days or weeks as a devoted follower, brace yourself. The journey without caffeine can resemble walking through a fog. Everything feels heavy and dull. Your brain may seem like it's stuck in neutral, making it easy to lose motivation. The absence of caffeine might push you back toward your beloved cup, because who wants to feel this uninspired and sluggish? And if you think caffeine withdrawal is a walk in the park, think again. Common symptoms include relentless headaches, persistent fatigue, and an emotional roller coaster that can leave you irritable and lost in thought. Usually, this uncomfortable phase peaks at about 24 to 48 hours post-sip, with some light at the end of the tunnel manifesting over the next few days. Hang in there. It's like a tough workout for your brain. Interestingly, the time of day can also impact caffeine's effects on your daily grind. In the morning, while your body is naturally waking up, caffeine feels like a gentle boost. But consume it later in the day when you're winding down and it's like trying to fight against bedtime. The classic jitterbugs might emerge. For those who successfully reduce caffeine after being dependent, the first week feels like a hangover from happiness, but around weeks 2 to 4, it's like hitting the reset button. Suddenly, the world resumes its vibrant colors, activities regain their charm, and surprising energy resurfaces. Sleep becomes deeper and more restorative as the brain adjusts to this newfound clarity. It's almost like a personal renaissance, challenging the idea that caffeine is a necessary crutch. The transformation can feel life-altering, tearing down the false notion that normalcy hinges solely on caffeine. Finally, wakefulness doesn't strictly require caffeine. It's a dance between brain chemistry and lifestyle. Sure, caffeine makes staying awake a walk in the park, but fatigue is a natural state navigable with enough stimulation and motivation. So, consider this. You can enjoy that caffeine kick if you want, but perhaps it's time to embrace waking up to life without it. The world is yours to enjoy, caffeine or no caffeine. The complex orchestra that keeps us awake is like a well-rehearsed band of neurotransmitters and neural networks. The adenosine system plays one tune, but the locus coeruleus, the star percussionist, brings forth norepinephrine, driving a strong beat for vigilance and attention. Meanwhile, the dorsal raphe nucleus and its serotonin-producing buddies throw in some lively riffs to amp up arousal and energy. And let's not forget the renin system in the hypothalamus, which works like a behind-the-scenes tech crew, ensuring we stay alert throughout our bustling days. Amid this brainy band, the suprachiasmatic nucleus plays a rhythm of circadian signals, keeping us fresh during daylight hours and encouraging restful sleep at night. These systems come alive during a typical waking state, even when caffeine isn't in the mix. They help you stay engaged with your surroundings, turning drudgery into an exciting dance of consciousness. Caffeine doesn't magically conjure wakefulness. It cleverly nudges existing wakefulness systems by shoving adenosine aside. So, if you're well rested, energized by meaningful tasks, and living in sync with your biological clock, who needs caffeine, right? But alas, modern life often throws a wrench in the gears. Many people find themselves walking a tightrope of sleep deprivation, circadian chaos, and uninspiring tasks. With our sedentary lifestyles and growing isolation, the natural wakefulness systems barely muster enough power to keep us alert for the day's demands. Enter caffeine, our favorite artificial wakefulness booster. Like a superhero in a coffee cup, it jumps in when our natural systems need a little pep talk, making us feel alive even when we skipped a night's sleep. However, relying on caffeine under these wobbly conditions is like strapping yourself into a rocket for a sprint without eating a proper meal first. Sure, it might give you a short-term boost, but then it leaves you more depleted. Instead of tossing back cup after cup of caffeinated goodness, we should focus on the roots of our unrest, getting solid sleep, syncing our biological clocks, diving into hobbies that spark joy, exercising, and fostering social connections. When we nurture these aspects, our natural wakefulness systems strut their stuff without caffeine's intervention. Peering into the future, caffeine's role in society seems to be shifting. More folks are catching on to the downsides of their afternoon caffeine fix. The very brew that boosts their productivity could crash their dreams later. This growing awareness may inspire people to rethink their caffeine habits, leading to a much-needed balance in everyday life. Meanwhile, a thrilling twist on the horizon is biotechnology, where researchers are hustling to create new compounds that could mimic caffeine stimulation minus the pesky jitters and anxiety. Organizations are also catching on, realizing that a workforce running on empty and caffeine isn't the dream team for productivity. Remote work, flexible hours, and a nod to mental wellness are sprouting up like spring flowers after a long winter. Amid these shifts, the idea of integrating mindfulness and meditation into workplace cultures is gaining traction. Organizations are beginning to see that perhaps promoting mental clarity deserves a place in the spotlight, giving caffeine a run for its money. While predicting the future of caffeine is a tricky business, this cherished stimulant isn't going away anytime soon. It has been the lifeblood for many, long before buzzwords like work-life balance were hip. The future could very well see us sipping caffeine more mindfully and intentionally using it occasionally to boost performance instead of guzzling it daily like a reluctant morning ritual. After all, life is about balance, And maybe we could all benefit from a little less caffeine chaos and a bit more mindful awareness.